Acha tuingie mambo ya Tanzania.
Mambo ya Tanzania. Mambo ya Lyenda Kagwanja kule Tanzania jana. We'll be joined by Professor Peter Kagwanja, who is an international relations and political scientist and diplomacy professor and practitioner. But what we know about Tanzania is that the government has imposed a dusk to dawn curfew in Dar es Salaam following violent protests that erupted during yesterday's elections. Vote counting was going on overnight in what has been one of the most controversial elections in Tanzania's history. Election day in East Africa's most populous nation was marked by dramatically low voter turnout across the country, with violent protests in pockets of the commercial capital, clashes between the demonstrators, security forces. Adding to the turmoil was the internet shutdown, with global watchdog NetBlocks reporting widespread internet outages on election day. We are going to be having Professor Peter Kagwanja in the studio, but right now we're joined virtually by Tito Magoti. Tito is an international human rights lawyer, and he describes himself as a student of Tundu Lissu, the leader of Chadema. Tito, good morning, and thank you very much for joining us.
Morning, pleasure.
Tito, we saw, just bits of, clips and information of what was coming out of Tanzania yesterday. I know that you have wide networks and you have people who you've been communicating with throughout the day yesterday and even overnight in Tanzania. Let's start with overnight. What happened in Tanzania overnight? There was a dusk to dawn curfew imposed yesterday.
Yes, curfew was imposed, illegally imposed in Dar es Salaam by the police chief. However, protesters across Dar es Salaam kept gathering in a few groups, in numbers, to keep demanding what they started. Similarly, across other jurisdictional bounds of the country, especially the Mbeya region, the Lake Zone, Mwanza, through Dodoma, we saw a couple of angry citizens trying to gather in numbers to, chanting, "We need a new down, CCM must go," and more other voices. During the day, as everyone would have seen, it started as a retaliation of small groups of people rallying together to say, this is not an election, this is not what we would have wanted. And a few were quoted listing demands that we can't go into an electoral process that is one-sided. We don't have the opposition. We understand that the candidate, the CCM candidate, is electing the election management, directors, all these returning officers are CCM cadres. So people are listing demands. Also, there was an outcry of abductions and enforced appearances in the country that has been going on for over years now. So people thought that the best way is to disrupt the electoral process because of also the other mantra that has been going on for a while, the no reforms, no election. So they had vowed that there won't be election and they'll make sure that the election is not happening. And as you could see, the exercise was disrupted in some places with ballot boxes being taken away from the polling stations, with ballot papers being taken out from the stations. But also we saw a critical step where people started going after infrastructures, expressing anger and disbelief in what was happening. But also we saw people going after enablers of the system, including socialites and artists who are not only enabling the system, but also they benefit from the system that has affected Tanzanians for a while.
Thanks, Tito. You've given us quite some good context. Let me start on pulling on a few strings on what you said. You said it's an illegal curfew. What makes it illegal? Can the president not call for a curfew?
It has to be sanctioned by the parliament and the prime minister. It is not the prerogative of the police. The police cannot announce a curfew which limits, the effect of a curfew. A sudden curfew, of course, because it came like a 40 minutes before 6 p.m. It's an illegal. It has to be sanctioned by the parliament. We don't have the parliament now, but the prime minister is still in office. So it has to be sanctioned by such other authorities because of its effect on human lives, on movement, and on the entire livelihood.
Just clarify for us, Tito, is this curfew only in effect in Dar es Salaam, or does it cover the entire country?
It was for Dar es Salaam only because, I think they thought that Dar es Salaam was heavily hit by protesters, and they thought people would increase in number because also there was a morale among young people to show up. Also with the support of the army, you can see if you saw the military vehicles, people chanted a lot when they saw military vehicles, and they felt protected whenever they saw the soldiers. So I think there was a momentum that the police were trying to block, such that the curfew was only the measure to say, you know what, everyone has to go home.
But then I'm looking at the other towns and cities in Tanzania. How was the situation like during the day? We've seen a lot of images coming out of Dar es Salaam, the largest city. There was, people pouring onto the streets, like you've said, attacking infrastructure and even attacking artists. What was it like in Mwanza, Dodoma, Arusha, Mbeya, Morogoro, and the others?
Yes, effectively. I mean, the momentum was seen slowly from other cities. However, Tunduma is within, is so close to Mbeya in the region now called Songwe. So Tunduma also had outbreaks since early in the morning. Then in Mbeya afterwards, we saw similar occurrences in Arusha, especially during the afternoon, because people gathered slowly. They could also be inspired by what had happened in other jurisdiction points of the country. We saw in Tarime, close to the Sirari border, but also we saw similar occurrences in Mwanza and Dodoma at night. So it was, people caught momentum slowly, and we could see in all these major cities, people rallying behind one another.
Thank you, Tito. We're just about, I'll come back to you again to just have a look at the curfew and how it affected Dar es Salaam overnight. And then we'll talk about also what led to this, what was bubbling that perhaps could not be seen from an outsider's lens. But let's welcome Professor Peter Kagwanja to studio. He is, of course, a diplomacy and international relations expert. And he's a very, very, how would I say, dapper gentleman with the red. That red struck me. I was like, hiya. Good morning, Prof.
Good morning. I'm happy to be here.
It's very good to have you.
Yes, and this is a very trying moment for Eastern Africa.
It really is.
Yes.
Indeed it is. When you look at what was happening in Tanzania yesterday, Prof, did you expect it?
Yes, we did. In fact, it's not going to stop. It's not going to stop because there's a way in which you can act in a manner that appears as you don't know the rules of gravity. The rule of gravity is that water must go down. And when freedom starts to go down, you cannot hold it back. You put everybody behind bar and expect that you are going to have a peaceful election. And you know you are a vulnerable nation. At least Kenya has its own experience with these things in the sense that we knew from the beginning that we are ethnic, we are this. So somehow we are guarded when we get things done. But in Tanzania, they have been used to a situation where people talk and people are proud of what they are doing and so on. Now here, you come in. The previous president, John Magoti, had already introduced something that was not making Tanzanian happy, the kind of an authoritarian rule. Then you come and listen to the people and you change. And you come up with the so-called 4 R's, reconciliation, resilience, reform, and whatever else. Then all of a sudden, you pedal back. And introduce the worst dictatorship Tanzania has ever seen. Put in all the opposition parties, put a few people, small balls you can kick around, and then you take the country to an election. In an environment where we have Kenya rising,
right,
in the form of Gen Z, in a situation where you have Uganda rising in terms of protest against, the jailing of various people there, particularly the leadership. So in a sense, this is not a Tanzania battle. It's our battle in East Africa. Yes, and that's why you're now seeing, and it's not going to stop. Second, Tanzania we have always consumed, particularly those of us who are Tanzania filia, or who loved Nyerere to death. We came to believe that Tanzania is not vulnerable to the same problems that are affecting us. I was telling a story of how I went to Tanzania. I was invited by the government of Jakaya Kikwete when they were now debating the constitution. And I heard things in that conference that I never had. Kero za muungano. Kero za muungano are the grievances of the union. That Tanzania, Zanzibar is colonizing the mainland, Tanzania. They have two presidents, the other Tanzania has one. You see? Two, they have privileges in terms of importing cars and all these, which others don't have. I tell you what, this is going to build in this conflict.
Right.
And by the time we begin to discuss it, it will be too late. So there is now, and remember the Suluhu comes from Zanzibar. And the mainland has grievances, serious grievances, which have not been built into the constitution. Kero za muungano.
The Zanzibar also has its own grievances.
Yeah, and now Zanzibar has its own grievances with the mainland. It would want to be an island where, because of its tourism and all. And you remember, Nyerere put it there in 1964 as part of that's why we talk about the union.
Muungano.
Muungano. So not everybody in Zanzibar has been happy about the muungano. Now, and it is at times like this when authoritarianism begin to rear its ugly head into political landscape, when some of these deep-seated problems begin to show up. So Tanzania is vulnerable now.
Okay.
I want to go back to Tito and ask him, Kero hizi za muungano, do they have any role to play, as Prof has said, in what we're seeing? Or what was... And then maybe from there you can extrapolate on what has been bothering Tanzanians that may not have been very, very visible to us. And now it has been bubbling under, and now we're seeing it sort of just, rise and take shape.
Thanks a lot. And good to see Prof. I've been following him a lot on this and other morning shows where he's so prolific on matters Tanzania, and we appreciate him for putting our facets to light. Asante sana, Prof. So the Zanzibari Tanganyika question has been bubbling, to borrow your word, quite often whenever there is a question that involves the interest of both mainland and the island. There's a very long list of what would be called kero za muungano, but pretty much in terms of decision making, resource sharing, and also now to borrow the very recent incident is when we saw massive privatization of some national infrastructures and parastatals like the port. The port was given, to DP. It's called a DP World, to manage it in a very dodgy deal that was entered by Suluhu and sorry to say her uncles from the UAE, in what the Tanganyikans, now the mainlanders, thought that now this Zanzibari lady is now dishing out our resources to the uncles in the UAE. So these are very sensitive questions that have been rolling around, and there was a very critical national debate to that effect, that why, if DP World is effective in terms of port management, why not do a similar approach in Zanzibar, and more other strategic investment areas, including running of the rapid transport buses in Dar es Salaam, including affairs with the Maasai in the national parks. So there was a feelings of the nationalistic feeling that why is a Zanzibari deciding, allocating our resources to the anchors, and we cannot establish where the contractual frameworks are and what are our benefits. That is one. Two, there's a feeling that the Zanzibari are being overwhelmed, rather colonized by the Tanganyikans, such that they are not that much independent to utilize the resources to their advantage. In fact, they don't see the benefit of the Muungano. They even took it to the African court some years ago, unsuccessful though. So there's been plenty of questions. And also, if you look at the structural architecture of both countries, you can see that they're both sovereign, but in a way, the Zanzibari president is not recognized in Tanganyika. If he's in Tanganyika, he is not given credences of a president. Equally, if the mainland president is in Zanzibar, and there's like a national parade, the Zanzibari president will be the last to enter the ground, that, as now the man has entered. So these dynamics come into play every time, and more other carols of Muungano. But also to look into the fact that the Zanzibari doesn't share similar grievances with the mainlanders. If you look into electoral injustices, in terms of fatalities, I don't want to compare human lives, because the loss of a life is as good as losses of lives. So the Zanzibari have seen it since 2001, when they had a massive electoral malpractice and policy brutality. They had political prisoners and refugees fleeing all the way to the UK and more. So they have seen it all, and now they're like, they have exhausted their anger. You can only see them looking at the mainlanders as, ninyi hamjawai kukiona cha mtema kuni, so just have it. But also now there's one more factor. People think that the Zanzibari are quiet on the grievances of the mainlanders because Samia Suluhu Hassan is theirs. That is also a very sensitive question, not easy to discuss. Lakini there's that sense of, they are trying to be quiet because she's theirs, and they want the mainlanders to see it all.
But from where you sit, and I'll also ask you the same, Professor Kagwanja, when you look at this, Tito, as somebody who is an international rights lawyer and all, and if you look at it objectively, are these some of these sentiments founded, or are they, those things that are intrinsic? Because you're a human being, you look at the other person and not trust. So anything they do is then just judged from that position of distrust. Because if you look at the areas that you're raising, the mainlanders looking at Suluhu and whatever she's doing, they're just thinking she's taking our thing back to her Zanzibari people.
And have friends.
That have links with Zanzibar and so on and so forth. Are they really justified, or is it an emotional thing?
So emotional, whatever, for me, my sentiment has always been that let people debate, and let people exhaust whatever they think that they have in mind. So, for example, the port trade deal, which I also subscribed that it was dodgy, there was no participation. People didn't participate. A memorandum of understanding was passed in the parliament without debate. And then the deal was entered. Now the PW World is managing our ports effective last year. So if people are not given an opportunity to deliberate on matters that they think they affect them, you would see them going far as starting to have these sentiments of Ukabila or the mainland or Zanzibar factor, thinking that, no president has ever done this. And if you remember, we had, quote unquote, a nationalist president in office before Suluhu, who said all things, we are rich, we can do it on our own, we don't want to privatize infrastructures and resources. So it was like a pseudo-resource nationalist. Because I don't trust if he was as legit as people thought, because he managed to deal with the very local normal mwananchi. So in such a way, you cannot dismiss the possibility of people speculating that maybe this happened because of this. This happened because she doesn't care about the mainland. This happened because she's a Zanzibari and she doesn't have any interest to losing the mainland. So the baseline for me would be that where the people given enough opportunity to know the deal, did they subscribe to it? How did the parliamentarians discuss? How much the scrutiny was in the parliament, and what was the quality of the parliamentary debate that led to the approval of such bilateral, if any?
Right.
Okay.
We'll come to Professor Kagwanja just after the break on the same question. Are these founded? Is this just a narrative that's taking root for some reason or other? But let's take a short break. Hashtag is Fixing the Nation NTV. We're in studio with Professor Peter Kagwanja. And of course, on Zoom, we have with us Tito Magoti, who is a human rights lawyer. We're discussing Tanzania's elections and, of course, threading what's happening there right now. And we'll keep you updated with any news that comes out of Tanzania. We'll be right back after this. With them. Yes.
Prof, you looked at what Orina has said and you're like, that's powerful.
Yeah.
You're a Pan-Africanist yourself as well.
Yes, I am.
What do you think of what he's saying?
That's very true, because if you look at the way the global geopolitics is panning out, you get shocked. If we as Africans don't, hang together, we'll be hanged separately as countries. So it is important that we revitalize Pan-Africanism. I like the young people. I'm part of their group. They often invite me in their conferences and so on. And I like the spirit. I think the problem is that the leadership of our countries across the continent either quote Pan-Africanism as just another thing, like you just jump into a dance, do a little jig, and then get out.
So people can see you were seen on the dance floor.
You are seen on the dance floor. It's a photo moment, that kind of thing. But the truth of the matter is, Pan-Africanism is our future. I pray God that this happened in my lifetime when we'll be talking about the United States of Africa. That was Nkrumah's dream. It was Gaddafi's dream.
As well.
It is my dream. The United States of Africa. Why United States of Africa? Because we have the resources. Therefore, we are capable of controlling the world. What we don't have is the unity. So we are chewed differently. Somebody is, France is taking a chunk that side, Germany is there, the United States here, China goes there, and everybody goes there. So we need to be united, have one policy. Yeah, I like the idea of African Agenda 2063, because the moment you begin to harmonize your policies, you are almost there.
Okay.
The next is now to basically talk about the political unification. That can come later, but all these other sectors are beginning to cohere.
Right.
Okay.
Coming
back into our conversation. Sorry, Maria.
No, I was just saying, economically, there's a lot of unification going on. From a, what would you call it, boundaries perspective, we're seeing, less and less every day. So we're in the right direction. But continue.
We need to accelerate that.
We need to.
I was asking Tito as we went into the break, the things that you talked about, kero za muungano, and you went and gave us examples of the sentiment of the various, people in Tanzania, those in the mainland, on how they perceive their president who's from Zanzibar, those in Zanzibar, and how they perceive the mainlanders. Are these actually founded fears?
They're not just founded fears, but they are the real fears that are driving the violence. remember, CCM would have possibly convened an emergency meeting and made a ruling. Remember, this is a party that has been in charge. It's like the Communist Party of China.
Yeah.
It's in charge. Why are we seeing Tanzania the way it is? Because the party itself is divided. CCM, I know we have focused more on the opposition was put in jail and so forth. That this is an opposition versus CCM thing. Making the false assumption that CCM is a cohesive, united force, ideologically and possibly functionally. I argue to you, I put it to you, that CCM is a deeply divided party, and that is why there is this chaos. Remember,
when did the divisions begin?
They began quite a while. Obviously, CCM has always had divisions. It has always had internal debates, which is natural to parties. But the leadership that was there before was more intellectual, open to debate, and therefore building consensus. Remember, Nyerere's philosophy was that we as Africans are consensus builders. We sit under a tree and talk until we agree. And that is what formed CCM. That we talk and agree. And therefore, they had small ideological differences, but they were there. Now, come in the authoritarians. If you look at the time of Jakaya Kikwete, Tanzania looked like a debating society. And therefore, Jakaya managed to solve a lot of problems by Tanzanians through debate. And he introduced into his government the main intellectual heavyweights. Kabudi, you remember Kabudi coming to our, BBI conference in Bomas? And you got the kind of debate that gentleman, that professor, brought into our own country, and how he just triggered us to think not only about what he was saying, but of the usefulness of Kiswahili in our own internal debate.
And who we are as a people.
And who we are as a people. And I remember taking him for lunch, because we are birds of a feather, and we taking for lunch and pushing that debate further. And I left there, like I had gotten a second PhD, after that kind of a debate. These are the people Jakaya Kikwete brought onto the table.
Right.
And therefore helped Tanzania. And that's why myself, when I went to debate the constitution in Tanzania in 2015, we had, the conference was interesting. It's 100 scholars or 100 academics, because that was a debate by 100 academics. Now, then comes in Jakaya's successors, total authoritarian populists who have no clue about what their country is about and what their region is about. Tanzania began to drift to the south, like its mandate was to be a satellite of South Africa and other countries in the south. And ideologically, without clear signs, it began to drift. But the worst of it all is now the closing of the space for debate, even within CCM. By the time Magufuli died, we have three functions within the party. And there are those who are for Magufuli, the radicals.
Right.
Could say those who liked the way he was going. And there were those who were for an open Tanzania. And when Suluhu came in, she took that line that we need to open up. And that's when I was talking about the 4 R's, which were aimed at opening up Tanzania for debate and so on. Then at a certain time, she drifted closer to the radicals. And then she introduced the third function. Those who thought that her succession of Magufuli and continued presidency was legitimate or illegitimate. That debate began to veer up. And whether the mainland Tanzania was getting its due share of the, of the rights. Because Magufuli was a mainlander. He passes on. It goes to an islander, to the islander. And now the islander want a second term, and the mainlander have not even finished their term. How to begin now to debate that? So those are debates which are subterranean, but which are fueling some of the anger
that
you see
seeing
with the young people. Obviously, if you ask the Tanzanians, if you ask Suluhu herself, the problem is being a neighbor to Kenya.
Oh.
So there's what they would call the Kenyan syndrome or the Kenyan disease, which is people going to the streets to demonstrate.
Willy-nilly.
Yes, and if you remember her famous statement, that we are the last man standing, that our neighbors are swarmed with this tyranny. It was put in very good Zanzibari Kiswahili.
I remember the statement.
Yes, it was a very indicative, and I wondered why our own leaders here were quiet after that statement, because that was an assault on our sovereignty. Because we are different from Tanzania, and Tanzania is different from us because it is where we were in 1990. That's the difference. The 1990, 1991, 1992, if you listen to our debate, take it in a newspaper at that time and look at the headline, it is the same headline that is in Tanzania today. That's when we were discussing our transition to genuine democracy.
I want to put a pause on that because it's good to thread, but I want to hear Tito's point of view on the same question that Eric asked. But he had already spoken about whether or not these are, genuine issues or they're being pushed by this or that. But let me ask you, first of all, how is Zanzibar? We've discussed mainland. We've seen what's happening. We've got videos from Mwanza. We've got from Dar es Salaam. We've seen Morogoro here and there. But how is Zanzibar as it stands, to the best of your knowledge, Tito? And do you agree with Prof in regards to what do they call the
loss of intellectualism?
Yes, the loss of intellectualism
in the party.
Yes.
No, fully. I fully agree with the good professor that one, CCM stopped being a political party once they banked on using force to remain in power. So you can't tell the ideological dispensation of CCM in a while now. You can't tell what are they trading, what is it that the party is doing, that is it selling ideological card. So they lost it a while ago, and also you can see, for example, we're drifting into authoritarianism brought a laughable parliament. We had 99 CCM members, parliamentarian parliament, effective 2020. It didn't give us anything other than, you would say, the lowest we had ever seen in the country. The quality of the debate, the kind of MPs, it was a ndio mzee parliament. So you cannot also expect the party to be effective. If there are no checks, if you can't see the quality of the deliberation in the House. So CCM, which is now controlling every aspect of our governance architecture, lost a plot, and they lost that culture of having quality intellectual conversation, or a synergy between intellectualism, politics, and more. They even killed the Kigoda cha Mwalimu, if Prof remembers well. We had a very interesting Kigoda cha Mwalimu Nyerere, which was run by professors like Professor Issa Shivji at the University of Dar es Salaam. They used to invite scholars to, do public lecture, paper presentations, which was a good culture also, inspiring young scholars, students, practitioners, and activists, to engage in similar quality debates that would also shape the trajectory of the country. In terms of Zanzibar, as I said earlier, the Zanzibaris are quiet. They are not so much concerned with what is happening in the mainland but they're also seeing it in their own style. There have plenty of grievances that led into that the deal so-called Government of National Unity, Serikali ya Umoja wa Kitaifa, which they've been decrying that is not effective. Because, for example, in 2020, the police, the amount of people who were brutalized by the police, the amount of people who went into missing, hiding, the amount of fatalities is untold. I saw a report that is not verified. You could tell, you could count up to 200, and that means 200 souls. This one is missing. This one was found. This one was injured very severely, very gravely. This one lost a parent. These ones are orphans because the parent died, So unresolved electoral grievances electoral grievances cannot be resolved by co-opting two people and put them into the so-called Government of National Unity, and then you forget. So what is the question of restorative and criminal justice to do with the entire population? So they've been crying that the GNU is actually a fake deal to silence the key players. If you take Maalim Seifu, now this legend is dead, may he rest in peace. If you take Maalim Seif because he has influence, give him makamu wa rais wa pili, the second vice president. Now imagine, why would we have a second vice president with what mandate? So if he's second vice president, he will be able to tell people that, we are now in government, we will engage the government, we will plan, which has actually not worked. So the Zanzibar banning, they are so disgruntled by the subsisting and also continuing electoral grievances. Yeah. And in my opinion, they might also have uprisings if Hussein Mwinyi rigs, because also Zanzibar is different from mainland in a way that they have been so proactive in politics, and they have supported the people they believe in. So CCM struggles to win in Zanzibar. They might have a fair share of support in the mainland. You would say this constituency is CCM. But in Zanzibar, you can also tell that this constituency is CUF, the Zen CUF Chama Cha Wananchi. Now ACT Wazalendo, you can say this constituency is typical ACT Wazalendo, and people are willing to die because of their candidates. Yes.
Okay.
In 2015, in that general election of Tanzania and Zanzibar, there was a lot of uprising in Zanzibar. In fact, they rejected the result in Zanzibar, and they had to have a rerun, right? And I remember around that time, many people in Zanzibar were actually saying that CCM, we don't even feel CCM. They felt that CCM had rigged the result of the election in Zanzibar, and that's why there was a forcing of a rerun, which again, they disputably won the CCM. So can we say, Tito, that CCM is actually not popular in Zanzibar? That much as the president is from Zanzibar, the party is not the popular party in Zanzibar.
No, you could say so. You could say so, especially if you look back in the years when Mzee Maalim Seif you could see Zanzibar through his prism, and you could see the people of Zanzibar through Maalim Seif. He is said to have won all these elections that he ran. Only that you cannot petition the outcome of presidential elections. Only that it is also contentious whether we have institutions of justice that can go against the incumbent. They might well try to go against some MPs, which has also been unlike maybe ward councillors. So the fact that Maalim Seif was influential, Maalim Seif, the state thought the only way could be the GNU. You can see the level of influence. So CCM, as giant as it seems, and as said earlier that they lost their ideological selling point, it has always been unpopular in Zanzibar, always. And also they have a feeling that the mainland has been fielding soldiers and police to contain the Zanzibari. That's another kero.
Okay.
During every election, there are people being ferried for a week or 4 days towards the election, such that they can go and brutally deal with the Zanzibari because they don't have a blood of Zanzibar. It is a similar sentiment that yesterday was trending in the country, with feelings that there are soldiers who cannot speak Kiswahili. You know, he's telling us his past, but he's not telling us in Swahili. And we know the literacy level of our police. Their intellectual appreciation of Kiswahili of English, with due respect, iko chini. So people had a feeling that they said rumors that there are Ugandan, soldiers deployed in the country. People were actually proving it in some places in Mbeya, in Arusha, and Kariako in Dar es Salaam. And then some people are saying, you know what? If you see a police who cannot speak Kiswahili, just hand them to the soldiers, such that they can verify, that is this a real soldier or a police? Yeah, so half-half. CCM unpopular in Zanzibar, but also the mainland having influence in Zanzibar. And to your question as I finish, the 2015 election that was to be redone, the Zanzibari believes that it was an instruction from the mainland, having learned that Maalim Seif has now beaten CCM. So the only way was to, denounce the election on an account that Maalim Seif announced him prematurely. And that is an electoral misconduct. So we are going to rerun. So try to think about the cost of rerunning an election against someone saying, guys, I won it. I won it. So they associate with the influence of the mainland chiefs or ruling elites. And I'm sorry to say, Mr. JK is a controversial, Mr. Jakaya Kikwete, controversial, was implicated in this, that it was his instruction to Salim Jecha to say, you know what, Maalim Seif, you announced yourself prematurely, and we are going to relearn this.
Wow.
Hey, that's a lot to thread on. Well, let me begin with the balance. Where do I begin? The president of Zanzibar currently is a member of CCM, if I'm not wrong. We've talked about, the feeling on the island, and Tito, you've given us really good insight as to how Zanzibaris feel about CCM. Is his deputy a mainlander? Is that how the balance works? Let me begin there. Okay, his deputy is not a mainlander, he's also Zanzibari. He's also Zanzibari. Okay, let me go now to the government of national unity, because I'm seeing some parallels between what's happening in Tanzania and some of the many deals we've had here. We've had our versions of governments of national unity. But Prof, please give us a little insight into what that looks like and how, if there was co-opting, like Tito has spoken to, if you try to bring in person X, to appease this, what does that look like from a Tanzanian perspective, especially for our viewers who may not be familiar with broad-based government? Tanzania. Tanzania.
Now, let's say this, that when we were doing the constitution here around 2009, 2010, Tanzania featured quite prominently as a model. I remember we had the French model. We had the pure American model, and then we were talking about the Tanzanian model. Now, when we came out of the 2008 violence, Tanzania was a key player here in terms of brokering peace. At that time, Jakaya Kikwete was the chair of the African Union, and I think he was also the chair of the East African community. I'm not sure, but he was a very, very influential person in many ways.
Right.
And Jakaya had moved to South Africa, to Southern Africa, because Tanzania is part of SADC, and therefore he could merge the two blocks, the SADC and
EAC.
Yes, and so he was very influential. So he, I would say, argue is the one who imported the model to Kenya during the compromise. So we had the president. Here we had the deputy president. But then we moved from there and introduced the position of the prime minister. And this is where we grafted the Tanzanian system. So we had 2 deputy prime ministers. One went to Uhuru Kenyatta,
side,
and the other one went to Mudavadi. So we had 2 deputy prime ministers. And ever since, Kenya has been trying to fight or to kind of digest the Tanzanian system and make it our own. And when we went to Naivasha for the constitutional negotiations, we settled for a pure presidential system, which to an extent was a mistake, in the sense that we needed to have thought about who we are. Kenya has 5 mega tribes.
Can we take a break there, Prof? And we shall continue. But let's just go into a quick break. We'll come back and continue with Professor Peter Kagwanja. We have him on, here in the studio. Tito Magoti, who's an international human rights lawyer, and he calls himself a student of Tundu Lissu, the leader of Chadema, is also joining us on the line. And in the next hour, we're also going to introduce into the conversation Gerva Lyenda, who is the head of information department for the Chadema political party. Chama cha Demokrasia na Mageuzi. Chadema. We'll be speaking to Lyenda as well in the next hour. Keep it here for that. It's coming up to 8 a.m. Fixing the nation, one conversation at a time. Close to Vunas. Professor Peter Kagwanja, an expert on matters of diplomacy and international relations, is here with us in the studio. We have Tito Magoti, who's an international human rights lawyer, and he says he's a student of Tundu Lissu, who is still incarcerated. And we have also somebody else who I'm sure will also call himself a student of Tundu Lissu, joining us as well online. Gerva Lyenda is the head of information for Chadema, the political party. They are both joining us virtually. They are Tanzanians. They have been observing what's going on in their country and, of course, participating in the conversation towards this election and in past elections. And Gerva, thank you for joining us. You're the one who's joining us lately. Prof was taking us through the journey of how Zanzibar and mainland Tanzania share power, so to speak. And so let's just get back to that, and then we shall come to you, Gerva, to get your feeling of what has happened in Tanzania yesterday and overnight. So, Prof, we're talking about the president of Zanzibar.
Yes.
What is the role of the president of Zanzibar in the Muungano, in the United Republic of Tanzania?
Yeah, that doesn't fit in. It is really the square peg in a round hole. But it's a product of those what we're calling Kero, the Muungano.
Yes.
And from the Zanzibar side of things, because when the 1964 revolution took place, the person who held the country together was the charisma and the admiration that Nyerere had from the people of both Zanzibar and Tanzania. And therefore he was able to craft a kind of a constitution that is power-sharing constitution, the first power-sharing arrangement. And we congratulate Nyerere for that, because Senegal also, under Leopold Senghor, also tried to do the same, to bring Gambia and Senegal together to get Senegambia. But Senegambia never picked as a model. But Tanzania picked the joining of the mainland and the island, or the islands generally. Now, the issue was therefore, power sharing at the top, which means that you have one president for both Zanzibar and the mainland, and 2 vice presidents, one representing Tanzania and Tanganyika, and the other one representing Zanzibar. And at any time, when you have a Zanzibari president on top, then the first vice president will necessarily come from the mainland, and the second will come from the island. And therefore, it's not a coincidence then when Magufuli, a mainlander, was in power, he got an islander as a deputy, who is Suluhu. And therefore, when he passed on, automatically Suluhu took power to finish the remaining part of the term. And now she presents herself as a candidate for CCM, coming from Zanzibar. And at the same time, we are having an election of a president in Zanzibar. So we have two presidents being elected, one for Tanzania and another one for the island. The island did not want to give up, and that has been a big issue ever since, because they wanted to have their own president and their own government, which they have had. And the existence of two administrations that are not clearly gelled up within the Muungano have been the root cause of what we are calling kero za Muungano within Tanzania. But you cannot deny Nyerere the medal for being a genius and being a builder. Remember, he was also the brain, largely the brain behind the East African community. The East African Federation, which now became a community after 1990. And I had said earlier how the Tanzanian model of coalition building helped Kenya also to do the coalition building here. The problem with Kenya is that we've not been able to come up with a homegrown model by way of digesting what Tanzania has presented to us and making it our own. So we keep on debating. We debated it during the BBI. It has now come back. When President Ruto came to power, he tried it by grafting something called super cabinet. Or am I making a mistake? Supreme cabinet. In other words, you are creating a prime minister without saying so.
Prime cabinet,
That's the point. You are creating a prime minister
without necessarily saying that this is a prime minister.
This is what we are doing. And nobody has any mistake that Musare Mudavadi is our prime minister.
Indeed.
It's only that we have not bestowed that name to him.
But we argue it's not in the constitution.
Because it is not in the constitution, but at the same time you do that. So that's Tanzania for you.
Okay.
And Tanzania has also been very influential when you come to the Southern Africa, particularly study the structure of SADC. You can see Tanzania written in it all over, because it has been one of the most influential frontline states, particularly under Nyerere and Mkapa. So it has had that huge impact. So the election of Suluhu, or the quest for by Suluhu to be elected, when there are only three candidates in this election, candidate one is Suluhu, candidate two is Samia, and candidate 3 is Hassan. Now, when you have those 3 candidates competing in this election, and she comes from Zanzibar, without people saying, she brings these sentiments of kero za Muungano. Right. Just naturally. Automatically they come out. Because you have she's a Zanzibari, they have an election in Zanzibar of another president, and here they have election. And remember, they are using Tanzanian resources.
Right.
At a post-COVID moment when Tanzania is really in a bad way.
That's true. Okay, Prof. I like the way you've threaded that for us. And this East African community has been a long time in the making. And I would love to actually have a separate sit down to figure out our politics, as an East African community. But let me get back to Tito and to Gerva. Gerva is the head of information, if I'm correct, for Chadema Party, ni Chama cha Demokrasia na Maendeleo. Na ebu tuambie, let's begin with this idea of no reforms, no elections. What did it mean to Chadema as a political party? And coming up to now, the elections, what was Chadema's stance as far as these elections? And then what has been the situation from your point of view, Gerva, for the last 24 hours? What's happening? Is it a legitimate pushback by the people who are looking for democracy and want to, exercise their right to vote in a free and fair and transparent election? Or is it more kero za Muungano than that?
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Yeah, I think you have heard what is going on in Tanzania. People are in the street now. Why people are in the street? Tanzanians are tired of bad elections. CCM has political party grab that right of people of Tanzania to choose the leaders they want. CCM finish election and they elect leaders in their rooms. So what the world see in what CCM call election, it is not election as it should be. Wanachaguana in their rooms. Tito should be a member of parliament. Lyenda should be a president of this country. So they have answers. They have leaders. And they think what they decide inside their room is the will of the people, which is very wrong. So Chadema as a political party, we say, no, this is not right. Tanzania deserves better than this. So what we did, we tried to think how we can install this narration to our people of Tanzania. So coming back to general election of 2019, local election, then general election of 2020, whereby Mr. Tundu Lissu competed with John Magufuli, and the local election of last year, 2014, CCM, what they did, I think even devil cannot do that. So after party election and Tundu Lissu became chairman of Chadema, Tundu Lissu take this no reforms, no election and say that this should be our tool to go forward in order to get a real election in our country. So we started to go to people, conducted various political rallies to all Tanzania regions. But it ended up the government of Tanzania arrested Tundu Lissu and gave him fabricated charges of treason. As we are speaking, Tundu Lissu ana miezi 8, 8 months in the prison. So people of Tanzania are tired of what is going on in their country. They cannot choose leaders. Bad laws, fabricated charges, abductions. So all of this, Chadema's political party, we managed to install it in the hearts of Tanzanians. And we said, no reforms, no election.
Right.
If reforms will be done, then Tanzanians will be able to choose the leaders they want. Without that, Tanzanians will get leaders sio wale ambao wanawahitaji.
Yeah. Asante.
And if
sorry, tunarudi kwako in just a minute actually, Gerva. But thank you for that. And it's good that we started threading on no reforms, no elections. I also wanted to hear from Tito on his point of view on the same. No reform, no election. How did it take root? We've seen all around, starting here at home in Kenya, whether it's Nepal, whether it's Madagascar, the internet being used to mobilize people and of course to, spread information and to give civic education. Was that the case for no reform, no election? Is it something that has taken root with a lot of Tanzania, both mainland and Zanzibar? Or is it pockets of, people that are saying no reform, no elections?
Well, I think it was, as my colleague Lyenda said, it was a very delicate attempt by Tundu Lissu and the Chadema party to introduce something that was unpopular and fashionable, such that why do we go to elections knowing that CCM will rig and win and announce themselves? So why are we participating in a validation exercise? So they said we would rather go to the people and tell them that, you know what, this is how we've been treated, at least for the past 6 decades. We have never had a meaningful electoral process properly so-called. So people, you have got to know this, and we are coming to you to tell you that we want you to say no to this election. And our bare minimum is reforms. Just reform the electoral laws. So it started as that, especially, you know, after last year's local government election, which was a sham, as Gerva said. And then more effectively, when Tundu was elected as party leader for Chadema, he said we cannot, you know, it's not about only losing election. Just think about the individual effects. People are going to spend years in jail on fabricated charges. People are being disappeared. People are injured in the process of fighting for their candidates to win. So Tundu said, how much blood is needed for us to say enough is enough? We want a meaningful electoral process. The party did rallies until such time when Tundu was sent to jail, and the Chadema party and the entire leadership put under political lockdown. Then people started using social media to campaign for reforms. We have never seen, I think CCM also knows that they have never been put in this position where you have young people who are saying no to the party, no to the president. They have never been put in such shoes. So social media played a very significant role. I myself also being involved in creating awareness, especially Twitter, and then later on TikTok, on Instagram, young people recording videos pledging that I'll show up for my country. If I die, just know that I died while fighting, fixing my country. So social media played such a significant role. And you can see, now you don't see the Chadema factor effectively, like in the demonstration, because the establishment thought if I deal with Lyenda himself has seen threats. If I'll deal with Tundu Lissu, I'll deal with John Heche, then I'm done. Little did they know that young people are mobilizing quietly, they are getting the message, and they're so articulate. You know, people are so articulate on what they want. So the no reform, no election mantra then turned into tunatoka, October tunatoka, because CCM came up with this October tunatiki, this as in tiki. Yeah. And then the young people said, no, you know what, October
tunatoka. Yeah, mkitiki yes. Tunatoka.
Yes, now ametoka kweli. And also you can see there's this MO29, it's maandamano. Maandamano, October 29 is the voting date. So they had two hands. The no reform, no election was a little bit abandoned like a month ago. People focused on now. You know what? We have made enough awareness. Now tunatoka, and we want to see everyone anatoka. Until early morning yesterday, like now, establishment had sent bloggers to mock protesters that umetoka na nani, mbona uko peke yako, mbona tuwaoni na kadhalika. So that's how it took shape.
Because of being challenged. I have a couple of comments here. Maimuna Mwidau Fixer says, good morning, Fixers. The Kerala Muungano in Tanzania is not a new phenomenon. It's been there since the era of Mwalimu. It's about an unequal union between Tanganyika and the Zanzibar Islands, and we've discussed that. Thank you, Maimuna. Paul Maina is asking you, Tito, and also you can come in, Lyenda. He's asking, are there abductions of protesters in Tanzania? And do these protesters have a leader? You can maybe respond to that, actually, Lyenda. Have we seen people who have been protesting recently being picked up by the authorities?
Oh, and as you
until
answer
today,
no, it's okay. Paul Maina
no,
Pia
until
has sent-
today, no.
Sorry. No, I was just thinking Paul Maina Pia has sent a good message there. Anasema, nawatakia Watanzania amani wakati huu mgumu wa kuisakama demokrasia. Just wanted to pass on his good wishes, but continue, Gava. Pole.
Okay, thank you. And until today, we don't have any data of number of people who have been abducted. But what I know, until yesterday in the afternoon, 3 people were killed. And after that, the government shut down the internet. So there is a barrier of communications between the people in the street and the world. And they shut down internet so that no news, no data can be disseminated to the public or to the world. But we are following, we are doing a close follow-up so that we can collect those data of people who have been killed or kidnapped.
So we don't know what has happened, for example, overnight. From where you are, Lyenda, do you know whether there have been any further arrests during the night?
No, I don't have the number, but what I know, people this night have been destroying so many things, TRA offices, government offices in the border. Example, the border of Tanzania and Malawi. People burn it down. Gas stations have been burned down. And other government offices and CCM offices. So people didn't sleep this night. They're in the street until this time. And what they want is changes. They want government not to declare who won the election, whether it's Diwani in the ward or Mbunge in the constituents, as well as the president of the Tanzania for 2025, 2030.
So it's likely, Lyenda, that these announcements will be made, all right? That even though we've seen some protests, they are not widespread. So there are parts of Tanzania that have not seen as violent protests as we've seen in some parts like Dar es Salaam. So if the results are announced for the ward representatives, for the MPs, and for the president, what next for your party and for your followers?
No, people want reforms. They want reforms. They don't want an election. That's why they came out the day the election process is going on. People decided to go to the road, to the street, instead of going to the political polling stations. You see, this is, the meaning is they don't want election before reforms. So what the government of Tanzania should do, not to declare the results. They have to listen to the people, do reforms before election. Otherwise, I can see danger ahead of Tanzania.
The question remains, because the elections have happened, and Eric is saying it is likely that the results will be announced. What will Chadema do in that eventuality? Because the elections have happened without the reforms. And then now, if they do go ahead to declare the results, what's Chadema's next move?
Chadema, as a political party, we did a lot, and we finished our work. We have managed to install the narrative to the people of Tanzania. As you can see, that demonstrations are led by citizens, not by Chadema. Yes.
So, kazi yenu imeisha.
We'll finish our work.
I see, Prof, you're not...
Watu wakawa wanasema Chadema, please, what we can do? Where's your statement? We say, no, we have finished our work. It's for you citizens to take power.
Tito, what do you think?
Yes, no, I have a very, I don't know if I'm correcting anyone, but I want people to stop saying that an election happened.
Okay.
Because the election is a holy exercise. The good professor might correct all of us. Election has standards. There's a threshold of what would entail election or democratic electoral process. So on the face of everything, Tanzania did not have an election. No election happened. Since the architectural design of this year's processes, everything was shambles. So no competition, no openness, no media coverage, and you can see the grievances among even these briefcase political parties that went into election to validate CCM's plans. They have been decrying falls. So for me, to call yesterday's malpractice an election, I think it's an abuse of the word election itself. Two, you look into the fact that some ballot boxes were taken from the stations, the polling stations. Ballot papers were taken from the stations. So how can you claim that you are now tallying the votes such that you can announce the winner? So the process, even the malpractice that happened yesterday, was disrupted. It cannot be repaired. So, well, I might be wrong, but I don't think I don't subscribe to the argument that an election happened in Tanzania. Thanks.
Fair. Let me then correct it and say,
I'll hold that an election has happened in Tanzania.
Of the government,
yes,
an election happened. In the eyes of the government, an election happened. But I do understand what you mean when you say, the tenets of democracy and the processes of an election. Yeah, there are very many questions as to that. But in the eyes of the government, polling stations open and that. And we'll come back in just a little bit to get Prof's views on that as well, because he was nodding very vehemently when Tito was speaking. But let's take a really short break. Hashtag is Fixing the Nation NTV. We'll be right back discussing Tanzania's elections and what next.
Peace and blessings, Fixing the Nation team. I am your brother Orina. I'm a Kenyan Pan-Africanist and I'm the founder of a Pan-African media platform called Sell Africa to Africans. How do I fix the nation? Well, it's more than that for me. It's how do I fix Africa and how do I fix the global African race? Well, I do that every day in my platform by spreading Pan-Africanism, by preaching the gospel of Pan-Africanism, and by making sure that I do everything in my power to ensure that Pan-Africanism is at the top of every African brain, because it is the only thing that can take us to the next level as African people. And I'm willing to come to Fixing the Nation to explain why Pan-Africanism is the most important thing and why Pan-Africanism should be at the top of every African brain.
Thank you, Orina, for that Was Up Nation video. You're absolutely right. Pan-Africanism should be at the top of every African's brain, and it is part of our discussion today as we talk about Tanzania's elections. Thank you for sending us that Was Up Nation video. Tutakupa mic. We have a segment on Thursdays called Shika Mic. Tutakwambia kujo shike mic utuambie why this is so important to you. Of course, you can send your WhatsApp Nation video to us as well. Just take your camera mahali uko sahi, utuambie what you're doing to fix the nation or what you wish could be done to fix the nation. And here I will expand the definition of nation outside Kenyan borders to the entire African continent. Send it to 0112 500 400. We're joined in studio by many fixers from Tanzania and Kenya. We have Tito, Magoti, and Gerva, Lyenda on Zoom joining us discussing Tanzania's elections. And of course, in studio, we have Professor Kagwanja. And just before we get back into the conversation, just some of the comments online. Wakayana Lawrence anasema, Ndugu zetu wa Tanzania, dawa ya kitoa machozi ni kuweka dawa ya meno kwa macho na kunawa macho na maji kwa wingi. Just giving, I think this is tips from our recent protests. We learned a few hacks here and there. Some toothpaste under the eyes does help to relieve the sting of tear gas. And then Tanzanians have decided to wake up. Congratulations to the Tanzanian citizens. Unity is the way to go. Fight for your rights. As Kenyans, we're behind you. That's boy child. Christopher says, even Uganda, it's going to be there. Kikombe says, what was Kikombe saying actually? No, I'll find the comment.
He's responding to a conversation here with Emmanuel Templar, because Emmanuel had started by talking about China has proven that a single party can also lead to development as long as the leaders deliver. China has lifted over 500,000 people, over 500 million people out of poverty in 40 years. But he also goes on to say Deng Xiaoping transformed China from moving from pure communism to a blend. This was informed by his exposure living in France and Russia. What plagues Kenya and Tanzania is leaders without exposure. And that's what the Kikombe is agreeing. I would add also our politicians. Deng was a leader. What we have in these two countries are politicians. Kikombe says there's a distinct difference.
There's a distinct difference. I agree. Yeah. I agree.
Between those two.
You were nodding, Prof, to what Tito was saying just before the break.
Yes. Now, it is true. If Mama Suluhu had succeeded to pull, to lift the vast bulk of Tanzanians from poverty, nobody would be talking about authoritarianism of CNC. Because as the Indian philosopher and Nobel Peace Laureate Amartya Sen once said, development is freedom. So she took the freedom and took development. That's why Tanzania has entered its Gen Z moment. And it's not getting out of that Gen Z moment. So when you hear our brother Jeffers and Tito saying they did their work, and now it's for Tanzanian to do their work, what they are saying is that, believe it or not, Tanzania has entered its revolutionary moment. We are back to 1964. Why? Because it's the people themselves. And which people? The young people who have taken. Now, if you ask the leadership of Tanzania, they'll blame it to Kenya. That this is a Kenyan disease spreading to us.
In homa ya Kenya.
As far as homas go, I like this one.
Yeah, but theirs was chronic. Because at least we have been having this homa, blips of it, and then it goes. So I agree with that. Let's look at the models of development and why Madam Suluhu finds herself in the kind of a hole that she is in. Now, there are four models. The first model is authoritarianism without development. And that was our model during Mzee Moi. We have uongozi wa mabavu and no development. And you can put a number of many African countries under that. Then there is authoritarianism with development. This is Amartya Sen, Singapore. This is China after Deng Xiaoping. Now, today, if you ever say President Xi Jinping is a dictator, people would laugh at you. Because as it has been said, you've pulled billions of your people, millions of your people from poverty. You have turned your country into a superpower. You are one of the world's largest economies, or perhaps the largest economy, the largest military, the largest middle class, and producing the largest number of tourists across the world. Now, nobody will come around and start giving you names. So that is the second model. The other model,
the benevolent dictator.
That's what they call benevolent dictator or enlightened dictatorship. Now, the other model is where you have democracy. Democracy without development. That is Kenya. Yeah, this Kenya, democracy and no development.
Very true. Yeah.
Yes.
I think the appearance of democracy. Let me call it the appearance of
No,
democracy.
in Kenya we have democracy. No, because why am I talking here? And I'm not afraid of going to committee in the next 1 hour.
Okay, fair.
Yeah. Kenya is a democracy in the full sense.
Okay.
The problem we have is that our democracy is not producing development. So democracy in poverty is perhaps worse than authoritarianism in poverty. Because here you have the sense that you are doing very well, but your pockets are empty. So the other model, which is basically the nirvana, the best that you can hope for, is democracy and development. That is what the United States have been marketing. It is a model they have been marketing. It's a model that the Europeans have been marketing until
they were exposed.
Until they were exposed. And you find the vast bulk of the Americans are poor. The vast bulk of some of the people in Europe. So that model exists in the Nordic countries. If you go to Norway, Sweden, Denmark, that model operates very, very well. So where is Tanzania? Tanzania has now moved from democracy without development to authoritarianism without development. That's why there is that bitterness.
Or maybe there is a democratic authoritarianism.
You can't mix the two. But if you get those two models, then you know where you are headed. So for Kenya, we just need to develop our country and match up our democratic aspirations. That's it. For Tanzania, they have 2 steps. First step is to get rid of authoritarianism,
regain democracy,
and then regain democracy, and then move to development. That is people-centered development.
Okay.
Now, when you look at what Tanzania is doing to the region, because that's a question we still need to address, we have seen Tanzania kind of inspiring a regionalization of authoritarianism, turning authoritarianism into a regional project. And the East African community is mute on this. I hope my sister Veronica, I wish you could issue a statement on the state of democracy in our region. You see, you find all the leaders in Uganda are now in jail ahead of the election coming next year, right? They're all in jail. And Mother Karua is doing a good job to stand for them and to ensure that if they are not out of jail, they are at least in our minds. The same case with Tanzania. She's been there. Remember, she was chased.
Yes.
So the Kenyan public is the only one now that is bearing the burden of swallowing democracy here. Because here we also have the same problems that Tanzanians are having. Abductions, disappearances, killings,
arbitrary arrests.
Arbitrary arrests. We are having them here. We are having them in Tanzania now. And these are, I would like to hear the comment from our brother Tito and Gavas. My argument is that this is the people being victimized are not only Chadema and other opposition parties. In fact, the rebels within CCM are the ones who are now disappearing. The ones who don't agree with the authoritarian policies of Madam Suluhu and others are the ones who are now facing those disappearances and abductions. And I have a few friends who I know,
who are members of CCM.
Of CCM, and are not comfortable.
What have they done?
Because they are opposed to what is happening in terms of moving from the 4 R's that Madam Suluhu started off with. We need reconciliation. Get Chadema out and let them be a legitimate party operating. Washinde, defeat them on the ballot on a free and fair election. And they will be, if they are defeated, they are defeated. Now, the second thing is resilience. Make Tanzania a country where the economy is soaring, where everybody is participating. Reform the country in terms of its electoral system, in terms of its political structure, and it's begin to address more progressively kero za muungano, so that we don't have the problems in Zanzibar. The reform agenda must be broad. Reform the constitution and give Tanzania a framework for a functioning people-centered democracy that Nyerere envisioned. those years. So that has not taken place.
Has not happened
at all.
Let me jump in here, Prof, and I'll ask you, plus ask Tito and Lyenda this question. I've heard it, in various platforms, that she started this was the journey, but then this Kero za Muungano and the Zanzibari versus mainlander conversation started happening even within the party. Yeah. That she was facing opposition, or the people who were starting to plot against her within the party to make sure that she's not the candidate in the 2025 election. That the party there are some people in the party that were planning to have another CCM candidate in the 2025 election. And so she did what a politician with power would do.
First and foremost, it looked, when she took over from Magufuli, I remember writing an article about her in Tanzania. And I was very celebratory about her coming. I was one of those who saw, a ray of hope in her, by the way she marketed herself. Remember, Magufuli was not moving around the region and the continent. So she was basically Tanzania's best ambassador and the face of that. And of course, the gender factor. Yeah. We liked the way she was moving. And her calmness at that time, when, she speaks, you see the calmness. And we needed that after going through waves of populism in this region, which is not helping us. Wars in Ethiopia out of populism, which will not help to us. Waves of populism in Somalia, basically leading to closures of borders. Yeah. So she came as a tranquilizing force. But all of a sudden, she became the calm before the storm. And the storm has really wrecked not only Tanzania, but the region. So in a sense, she did not grasp the change and now started gravitating towards the authoritarians within the party. And that's what I said at the beginning, that we still, as scholars, we are trying to identify the categories of ideological predisposition within CCM. But at least three are distinctly clear. That there are those who are for the authoritarian of the Magufuli era. But at the same time, they have something positive about them, that the economic nationalists, what Tito was talking about, the economic nationalists who want to assert the autonomy of Tanzania. Then there are those who want an open Tanzania, where the opposition is functioning alongside CCM. Even if the CCM continue to be a dominant party, the way the ANC is in South Africa, or the way SWAPO is in Namibia, at least the voice of the opposition is heard, and it is legitimate to do it. This is the business of the opposition to promote itself, the way we have done here in Kenya. But then there is that middle group, which seems to be confused. But largely, it is also having a lot of grievances. They are pro-Tanzania. They are wondering what Zanzibar is doing. Like this election is about, this is a Zanzibari election. Yet it is not an election, as Tito said. This is coronation. We are just waiting to see that. The rest is the drama.
But then you have not answered my question, Prof. Did she gravitate towards the authoritarians, or was she pushed by forces within the party to take a position?
That's the point I was headed to, that this is coronation. And it's a coronation of a Zanzibari. Remember, in terms of the structure of Tanzania, this is my own interpretation, Magufuli did not finish his term. And because of the structure of the constitution, now power shifted to Zanzibar through her, and she ruled for the next remaining part of the term. Now, the big question was, in form of justice within the Muungano, was she the legitimate candidate for 2025? And that is a question that was silently asked within CCM. And that now morphed into, resistance. And eventually, the crampdown on the so-called radicals within Tanzania. And therefore, it might, so the kind of conflict you are seeing now in Tanzania is threefold. One is the young generation who want democracy. So the Tanzanians Gen Z moment. The second are those who want to assert the right of the mainland
Of Tanganyika.
also to have its share all day in the sun in the democratic dispensation in Tanzania. And the third is the opposition. And the opposition that want freedom, that want to have a share of democracy. And those are the three functions. And this time, then CCM, the core CCM radicals led by Suluhu are outnumbered, outgunned, and out there. And Tanzania is not safe.
Thank you, Prof. We're about to run out of time, but I want to hear from Tito and I want to hear from Lyenda as well, just before we close, on the same question that Eric has asked. Did she gravitate towards this authoritarianism because of internal party factors that were pushing her that way, or was it always her path? Very briefly. Tito, let me begin with
thanks.
you.
Yeah, you know, once Mwalimu Nyerere said, this constitution has given me so much power, such that I can abuse it. And then think about a president lacking authority to drive the country to a good trajectory. So it's unbelievable. And it's an argument that might come maybe on 10th place out of one out of 10. She had all the goodwill. She had the support. And as Prof said, we supported President Suluhu because why not? If we have seen a new day and everyone thought it's a new day, say why not? We wrote letters, you know, we wrote petitions, we wrote proposals for reforms until such time she realized how to use the power to her advantage. And CCM, as odd as it looks, it has factions. So they now started, you know, planning for the next election, planning for the next succession. And the greediness of the people within the establishment is what consumes our governance architecture. And to Eric's question, I think the weighing factor could be the fact that some elites who were sidelined by Magufuli came into play to create deals, some long-lasting deals with the establishment, and try to provide a map for Suluhu's presidents. And that's how she started failing, such that she abandoned all the good pledges and promises she had put in place. She commissioned, you know, some, you know, task forces like the Justice Chande Commission to look into criminal justice reforms and tabled a very progressive report. But such proposals have been abandoned. And also the last thing I would say is that good intentions without actions is another thing that consumed the President Suluhu. Day was there, but then she wasn't clinical. She wasn't a finisher. She didn't finish and score some generational goals.
Okay. Lyenda, what's your view on this as we conclude?
Okay, thank you. Chadema as a political party, we narrowed down all the problems and came up with no reforms, no election. We said that if there are bad laws in the electoral process, then people will end up getting bad leaders, incompetent leaders. The incompetent leader cannot be able to manage Tanzania resources. Tanzania got a lot of resources like gas, minerals, tourist centers, and many more. So if you don't have competent leader, those resources cannot move Tanzanians from poor to you cannot improve people's lives if you cannot manage resources. So we end up installing the narratives that we have to there must be reforms before elections. Samia didn't follow CCM procedures of getting mgombea, you know, and there is a case as we are speaking. I think Mr. Tito know that. Mwanachama wa CCM amempeleka Samia mahakamani. He blamed the process of getting Samia Suluhu Hassan as the candidate of CCM. So I think, forget about all problems. The issue is reforms. Reforms can lead citizens of Tanzania to get a competent leader.
Thank you.
Whether
Thank you, Gerva.
it is president, member of parliament, or diwani. So people thought that no, if no reforms,
then no election.
We cannot be able to get a good leader. Our resources cannot benefit us.
Right.
That is what is going on in Tanzania.
Thank you. Thank you. Gerva Lyenda, Head of Information for Chadema Party, the Chama cha Demokrasia na Maendeleo. We also had Tito Magoti, international human rights lawyer, who are both joining us via video link. And in the studio here, Professor Peter Kagwanja. We've been talking about the Tanzanian elections and what we've seen from yesterday into today. We'll, of course, be following this up. Our newsroom at Nation Media Group here in Nairobi and across the region, they are following up on what's happening in Tanzania. We'll be giving you updates throughout. In the next hour, we talk about Down syndrome. What do you know about Down syndrome? We have a parent of a child with Down syndrome joining us, Ken Mugani. It's 9 a.m. Good morning.